Welcome back. It's time for another pantry tour. I have done many pantry tours before and I've explained a lot of like the how and why behind why we do all this and why we leave like the canning rings off and things about this room in all of my other pantry tours. So I'm going to link those down in the video description for you if you want to know more of that detailed information. But for this year, I'm just going to jump right in. We're gonna go for it. To start out, we have dill pickle relish. Dill pickle relish is sort of uncommon, but it is common in our household because Cameron does not like sweet pickle relish, so he made this all by himself. Is that even a thing? Can you buy dill pickle relish at the store?
Yeah, but it's hard to find.
You can now, okay.
Yeah.
So then there is some sweet pickles here. Those are for me because I like the sweet pickles, but I'm the only one. Next is some pinto beans. Dried beans keep at room temperature just fine for like a year, but we can some just for convenience. And then after that, baked beans. These are from last year. They're just leftover. Next after that is some ketchup, also leftover from last year. Barbecue sauce. This stuff is like 3 years old because when I made barbecue sauce, I didn't like this recipe. So we've kind of been disguising it in other foods to try and hide the taste because we didn't like it, but I hate wasting food. I grew beets because I wanted to try it. I had a good harvest. Nobody in our family will just like eat a whole bunch of roasted beets. They're good, they're fine, but it's not something like we would choose to eat. So I pickled them because when I was little, I remember I loved pickled beets. I don't love them anymore. So they're still here on the shelf and no one else is eating them either. So I need to like make them into something, maybe a sweet something. I don't know, can you do that with pickled beets?
I don't know. If you have any ideas, put them in the comments.
Yeah, we'll take ideas. Next is all dill pickles, of course. And then we just have like the sliced ones and then spears for the dill pickles, just depending on what we're feeling like for that meal or that day. After that, we have one jar left of this pork and beans. This was okay, it wasn't great, so we did not repeat this for this year. Diced tomatoes, which is definitely a staple, goes in a bunch of foods. We do go through a lot of that. Tomato juice also goes into foods. We don't just drink that plain. This is gold right here. This is pasture-raised pork lard, homemade, from our pigs. Then we have some larger jars of tomato sauce. This is pizza sauce. Cam makes some really good pizza. Delicious. Sloppy Joe, this is from last year. I do a couple of like fun things or different things to kind of mix things up a little bit, and then sometimes it ends up that we just don't love them, so I won't make it again the next year. Sloppy Joe sauce, I did not make again this year. Salsa, that's a staple one, tried and true. We love salsa. This is a really good recipe. We do hot salsa and I make a mild version. Next row is all prepared foods for when we're in a hurry or we don't want to make a dinner or just don't have time to. It's kind of like a meal in a jar. We have expanded what we do in this category because this is what we eat a lot of. So this first one is chicken enchilada soup. This one is new to us this year. I actually haven't tried this yet or this soup either because we really wait until winter to get into all of the pantry foods just because we have so much produce in the garden already. It doesn't make sense to get into this stuff yet. So after I'm done with this, we will probably try some of these and enjoy them. All of this here is sausage and bean soup. Another new one for us this year. It's very similar to the Cajun cowpea soup that we really love. Over here we have spaghetti sauce. There's 6 quarts and 2 pints back there. I didn't make a ton of canned spaghetti sauce this year because we made a lot of frozen spaghetti sauce. It's actually not spaghetti sauce, it's a loaded veggie marinara sauce that is very similar, but it has more vegetables in it than just tomatoes. And for me personally, when I eat just the tomato version of spaghetti sauce, it can be really hard on your stomach and stuff, on my stomach at least. So that's why I didn't make a ton of that. We have the other kind in the freezer. All of the crates on the bottom shelves, all of those are filled with potatoes. We have been eating potatoes since the day that we harvested them. And so some of these crates are like half empty, some are more full, but we had an amazing potato harvest this year. So I'm sure we'll make it all the way through the winter, no problem. Plus we use some of these potatoes for seed in the spring and just replant them. On the top shelf we have cherry jam here. This is a low sugar lemon ginger jam. This is from my sister Amy. It was gifted to us when she visited. And then we have cranberry applesauce. We love that. We're definitely gonna make some more this year once we get the cranberries. This is an elderberry syrup, also gifted to us by Amy. And cranberry sauce. This is apple butter and more apple butter, just made on different years. But we still haven't gone through all that yet, so I didn't make any more this year. This row here has some of our freeze-dried foods. This first one is actually a failed apple fruit leather that I did. I made a raw apple fruit leather like I have done previously, but I made it way thicker and it kind of turned out like this apple chip thing that we're still gonna eat. It's still really good, but it's definitely not like a fruit leather. This is freeze-dried applesauce, freeze-dried apple slices, freeze-dried mushrooms, freeze-dried snap peas. This is freeze-dried cilantro, freeze-dried spinach, and this is freeze-dried chili we did. And then we're back to some canned stuff. This is canned apple juice. Here we have some grape juice. It's not as much as I would have liked to have, but I get my grapes locally and they had a freeze this year that killed a lot of the grapes, so we didn't get as many as we usually do. So we were able to get a bunch of free apples for our pigs, but there are actually so many good ones in there that we made this apple juice and some of this apple sauce, and we're gonna be making a whole bunch more apple stuff, probably more freeze-dried apple slices, just because we have so many apples right now, which is really cool. Down in here we have chicken stock. This is a lower supply than I normally have just because we have not butchered our chickens yet. That's coming up next week, so we'll be making some more of that. And then right here we have beef stock. This is a vegetable stock, and then this is our favorite Cajun cowpea soup. I still need to make some more of this, but I have all the ingredients, I just haven't put it together yet to make some more soup. These are all ferments that I did last year and they're still good, which is amazing. I think we have hit on the perfect temperature for fermented foods or something like that, because in previous places that we've lived and when we've had these in the refrigerator, they haven't lasted this long, but some of these are 15, 16 months old and they're still perfectly good. We've got regular kimchi here, and then these are cucumber kimchi. One of the things I realized when I made the cucumber kimchi is that it's really good and crunchy for like a month or two, but after that the cucumbers started to get soft. So after a while, nobody really wanted to eat as much of this, but I have been throwing it into things so that it gets eaten still. And over here, I have some fermented jalapenos. We put it into our white chicken chili. In the back, I have some preserved lemons. Over on this side, I freeze-dried some bananas. We did not grow these. These are freeze-dried apple slices. Pretty much these top two shelves are all dehydrated foods that I've done in years past. Once we got the freeze dryer, we really didn't do a ton of dehydrating anymore just because we prefer the texture of the freeze-dried foods. It rehydrates faster and you have more options with it. Eventually we will go through them. This is dried celery, dried sliced squash. This is also a dried celery. This shredded squash, sweet corn, dried sliced peppers. These are mung beans that I bought for sprouting, and they really probably shouldn't be in here, but there they are. More dried sliced peppers. These are dried leeks and dried jalapeno peppers. Dried celery, dried spinach. Here's the difference between a dried spinach versus the freeze-dried spinach. Hopefully you guys can see the difference in color there. And also when you reconstitute this in a soup, it is quite different as well. A little more flavorful, a little bit more like the original. Dried sliced tomatoes, dried sliced peppers, dried green beans. This is apple fruit leather. This one is
dried poblano peppers.
oh, freeze-dried pizza sauce. I did not use that freeze-dried pizza sauce that I did last year just because we had the canned pizza sauce. Canned pizza sauce just doesn't last as long as freeze-dried foods. That'll last like forever. So it stayed there and I used the other stuff. My brain is just...
Freeze-dried peppers.
I like look at it, but I can't say the words. Freeze-dried sliced peppers here.
Mushrooms. Freeze-dried mushrooms.
This is bad.
You want to trade spots here?
Yeah, you're fresh and I'm not.
Okay, so I'm going to take over now because Becky can't speak English anymore.
I just look at it and I'm like, I have to say like freeze-dried sliced. Okay. I just want to say sliced or diced because that's what's tripping me up. Freeze-dried peppers, freeze-dried mushrooms, freeze-dried onions. These are from onions that did not store well. I have another video about that I'll link in the description if you want to see that. These are freeze-dried green onions. Or are those leeks? I think those are just green onions. The red onions and yellow onions here. Freeze-dried melons, freeze-dried green beans, freeze-dried cherries here, diced peaches, freeze-dried sliced apples, freeze-dried applesauce, freeze-dried blueberries. These are also kind of hard to see, but there they are. Delicious. Freeze-dried applesauce, and applesauce. This crate down here, these are garlic. A lot of these are actually not so good because we picked through a bunch of these and planted them for seed, and we haven't gone through the rest of these. They just don't last super long for us, so I need to go through and take out the rest of the good ones and preserve them. I already minced up a bunch and put them in oil and froze them, and the rest of these I'm going to freeze dry into a powder. All right, so we are at the final stretch of the cold room tour here. A bunch of empty bottles here at the end. We had a baby this summer, so last year I had some cans here. This year, well, cans full of food, I mean, jars full of food. And this year I just didn't do quite as much as the year prior because we had a baby. So I've got the jars here, and then we've got apples here, apples. These are just locally purchased apples. And then down here on the bottom, this is one more thing of potatoes, and over here is the last of the good onions. Outside of our cold room, this pantry is at room temperature. It's at about 68 degrees during the winter time and 76 degrees in the summertime. And the foods that we keep out here do better in this room temperature. So the first thing we have down here is sweet potatoes. And then just above them, I have this squash. This is honey patch squash, I believe that's the variety. We're going through those super fast. I wish I had grown more of these because they're so good. It's just, I just cook up one of these for myself when I'm hungry. I like that they're like one serving size. And baby Riggs is eating those too. The other thing here is I have a bunch of dried beans I need to go through and shell still. And then up here, this is additional garlic that I'm also going to preserve. And then I just store my seeds up here. So that's it for what I'm going to show outside of the cold room this year. We cleaned out one of our freezers and it is completely empty. So I'm actually going to do this the opposite way. I'm not going to like take everything out and show you. I'm going to organize it and put it in the freezer and show you that way. We have a lot of freezers. We have 3 in the house, 4 outside. The reason we have lots of freezers is one, because we sell some of our meat, so we need additional freezers for that. But the other reason is it helps us to organize everything. So usually we have like our chicken in one freezer, pork in another, beef in another, the vegetables in one, and so on. This is going to be our vegetable and fruit freezer. I'm hoping I can fit it all into this, but if not, it will go into kind of overflow into another freezer. Okay, so this first basket, I'm going to load up all of our fruits in this. I just weighed these blueberries and I have 15 pounds of blueberries. We just weighed the cherries. We have 18.5 pounds of the cherries. Just finished weighing the snap peas. I have 16 pounds of snap peas. Okay. I weighed the shelled sweet peas. I have 5 pounds of those. I just weighed the green beans, 12 pounds, 7 ounces of the green beans. I'm gonna put them in this crate to organize them, and we'll see if we have room for anything else. I missed a thing of green beans. We're up to 13 pounds now and 7 ounces. So just gonna throw this in there. These 3 pounds of broccoli. Seals on these bags are breaking. I've got pumpkin puree. I'm weighing this. 14 pounds, 3 ounces. We had this box and we cut off the top so it would fit perfectly into the freezer in an empty space we have so we can organize it better. So I'm gonna put that in there right now, and then we'll put the vegetables in that. Just finished weighing the veggie loaded marinara sauce. I have 13 pounds, 2 ounces. So I'm gonna write that down, then we'll load. Oh, I can even fit one more row on there. That's cool. Also putting in some peach barbecue sauce. These are from last year. And I have 2 things of butternut squash puree that I am putting down in here as well. In this box here, I have a bunch of our pesto that we froze over the summer. And I also have garlic that I minced and I put in oil, and I froze in these little cubes so I could just throw it into whatever we were making. We'll see how much we got so I can know for next year if we need more or less. Okay, 6 pounds, 7 ounces of pesto. We do both the garlic and the pesto in the silicone tray cubes because it's easier to grab one of these and use it that way instead of just having it in a bag like this. This is what we did last year. Both methods still work. I just feel like it's a little bit easier to like pre-freeze it in the cube and then grab it out of the bag that way. Right there. Voila! These are green onions I had in the spring. I had an abundance of those. I did freeze dry a bunch of them. This was back when we had the smaller freeze dryer. So I think I fit all that I could on the medium-sized trays, and I told myself I'd do the rest later, and I haven't done the rest later yet. 10 pounds.
Nice.
The last thing that I need to weigh is this stewed garlic butter squash. I think I may have written down earlier how many of these I did, but I do want to weigh them and find out how many pounds I did. Yeah, these are all the garlic squash. It does say 28 pounds. So, okay. The last thing I have here is 2 bags of tomatoes that I threw in the freezer during the busy time of the summer and I didn't do anything with yet. So these will probably end up in some kind of soup, but for now they're just gonna go right back into the freezer. Yay, we're done!